So it's going to be a very quick video, just going to introduce the key topics, go over our approach to learning Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So what is Bitcoin? These are the main tenets of Bitcoin, and we'll go through each one of these briefly right now, and over the next several months we'll dive much deeper into them. And there really is no shortcut. You have to understand, you have to have a good understanding of all of these topics. And there are lots of ways to define Bitcoin. The best starting point, though, is that think of it as just a system to keep track of who owes who what money. And we'll go through a couple of examples. So one is a poker game. So think about sitting at a poker table. All the players know how much money that every other player has at all times. Money and chips are changing hands, but it's easy to keep track of who has what. And then another example is just a group of friends, and they may buy each other lunches or snacks or drinks on a night out, and each friend just keeps track of how much money she owes to other friends or how much money her friends owe back to her. And in this case, money is not even changing hands, but every friend still keeps an accurate understanding of who owes who what amount of money. So this is the same function that Bitcoin serves. It just provides a situation where everyone knows what's going on. Bitcoin is just an accounting system. And then one of the most common questions is, how does the Bitcoin blockchain work? And the blockchain high-level overview is just a combination of several key concepts. We have basically how the internet works, what is cryptography and how it supports internet security. And then we have these two concepts here. These are solutions for two different problems. And then lastly, there were several prior attempts before Bitcoin at digital cash. And we're going to start down here at the bottom right. And really what the main innovation of Bitcoin was that it tied all of these 5 concepts together. And you can see the prior attempts were gradually getting closer to this. And what's interesting is how Bitcoin ties these key components together. It has to do with money, gold, and banking. So these are non-technical concepts, but they are actually the common denominators in how the blockchain technology works. So this is why we first need to learn the history and the function of money, gold, and banking. So this is what we need to understand first, and starting with an understanding of these topics is the fastest way to learn how blockchains work and how Bitcoins work. So next, money. Throughout human history, we actually have had many things that served as the function of money. So just imagine yourself back in ancient times first, and you're trying to barter. You have a cow, you want 12 eggs, and you can quickly imagine a ton of mismatches. And the solution that is almost obvious is you need to have some kind of a medium of exchange, some kind of indirect exchange, and this is what money is. So instead of paying with your cow, you use something that is you can easily divide up into just the quantity you need for the 12 eggs, and then something that is also easier to transport than the cow, easier to carry around with you. And this last point here, something that you know that other people are going to accept it as payment, both now and in the future. And there's a lot more to this last point. It's a very hard standard to achieve, and we're going to cover this in more detail later. But this is money. And then some examples of what humans have used throughout history. And money really is just a societal consensus. The society selects what they think is the best item to serve as the medium of exchange. And as an example of societal consensus, think about prisons. These are a form of society, a mini society, and we know what they adopt as money. So a useful thought exercise is to think through why do these items serve the function of money, and why are they used as money. Next is gold. And the story of gold is very interesting, but what gold does really well is that it has been assured to hold its value in the future, and that's due to having these properties. And so one example is the price of a nice suit in gold ounces. So the cost of a nice suit 2,000 years ago would cost you 1 ounce of gold, which is almost the same as the cost today. So 2,000 years difference, 1 ounce of gold will buy you the exact same thing. Gold will hold its value. And then one of the key differences we're going to talk about between gold and Bitcoin has to do with ease of use. So gold is simple. People criticize it, call it a dumb rock, but sometimes simplicity is a very good thing. And Bitcoin may be more powerful, but Bitcoin is also more complex, which can also have its downsides. And then we have trust. So with Bitcoin, you have only two people, and they can conduct a transaction just between themselves. And it's not a U.S. dollar transaction, one person giving $1 to someone else, because a government is considered a third party. It's not a barter, because Bitcoin is actually a medium of exchange. It's just an exchange that happens online, digitally, uses zeros and ones, and just two people. So another way to look at it is these two people, instead of using a trusted third party, a middleman, a central authority such as a bank or PayPal, instead of using this, they are using this decentralized network to conduct their transaction. And this type of decentralized approach to money has actually been seen before in history. The Yapese, who were a small island population, used these things called rye stones for centuries as money. And you can see here how big some of these were. And they used these for centuries until about the 1870s, 1880s, they stopped using them. But the rye stones were a decentralized technology, very similar to Bitcoin. And then lastly, the prior attempts at digital cash, they all relied on this model, because the central authority is a good solution, where it's at least it's a solution for the double spend problem. So the Bitcoin decentralized network also solves the double spend problem, but now the two individuals trust the network instead of trusting a single entity. And we'll go through the differences between trusting the middleman and trusting the network. But the short of it is, less trust is required when you use the network. And less trust is required because of cryptography. So instead of trust, Bitcoin uses cryptography. And we have public key cryptography, hash functions, Merkle tree, digital signatures. These are nothing to be afraid of. We're going to cover these. You'll get it. All of these are in your web browser right now. They've been around for decades. They are the workhorses of the internet security, and they are the workhorses of Bitcoin. And then for the blockchain itself, the blockchain concept was actually invented a while ago. And the problem that this timestamping solution was solving was we had scientists and engineers working on projects where at the end of it they were going to patent that project, patent that information. So they needed a much better way of documentation and record keeping of all the work they were doing. And they essentially needed a database so they could go to a judge and they could say, there is no way to tamper with this database. There's no way to go back in time and make changes to this database. This is proof to you that I invented this information on this date. And this solution, the solution to this problem was what's called timestamping. And Bitcoin borrows very heavily from this concept. And the company that built this timestamping service is actually still in operation today. And every weekend, they publish their latest hash in the New York Times, so you can still see it. And then we'll pull all this together. You'll understand how and why the blockchain works, why all the blocks are tied together down to every concept. You'll understand how these two guys can now conduct a transaction using their wallets, and you'll understand the roles that all of the players serve in the network. And then we'll have a section on how to buy and store Bitcoin. There is a lot you need to know, or there's some important information you need to know before buying Bitcoin. And then lastly, we'll go through some of the different methods and perspectives on how you can view or think about Bitcoin's path towards the future. And this is what excites me the most about Bitcoin, is that it's a very young technology. It's still kind of an experiment. It's going after the largest markets in the world, and it's starting to compete with governments, and the governments are going to fight back. So that's it. Here's our roadmap to learn. We'll start by understanding Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain technology. This will give us 80% of the foundation we need, and then we'll go into Ethereum, the other coins, different types of blockchains, and we're going to round out the last 20%, and you're going to finish with a foundational understanding of everything cryptocurrency. So we'll talk soon.